Hi friends, this is Wendy. Today we're going to be using Nancy's Lilac Bouquet from Honeybee Stamps. And I've got some distress ink, some post-it note tape, and I have predetermined the colors I'm going to use for my Copic markers, and I've written them out here in case you want them. You can always rewind and pause the video there if you need to write those down if you want those. So for these cards, we're going to make 2 cards today. And I thought it would be fun to do a masking technique. I really like bold color with a lot of white space. So that's just kind of what I'm naturally drawn to, is more simplistic card making. That and fun fold cards. Those are like my 2 favorite things, is clean and simple, fun folds, and coloring. I'm not a one trick pony. I like lots of different stuff. So here we are going to stamp this image. This is a beautiful image illustrated by Kelly Taylor, and we're going to stamp it, but we've masked 2 sides of it, so you're only going to see the center of it when we're done. We're also going to ink blend within that mask. I'm using Honeybee's Intense black ink here to stamp with, and I'm using this ink because we're going to Copic color, and this ink is Copic marker safe, alcohol marker safe. So I'm stamping it twice because when you add a mask, sometimes the edges of where you stamp don't stamp all the way down the first time. So it takes a couple of times, and you have to do a little bit of card CPR there to make sure that your image goes all the way to the edge. Then I'm going to remove this entire piece, leaving my masks on the sides. And then we are going to ink blend. I'm using Honeybee's, oh, I forgot this step. We're also going to cut a mask for the floral design. I'm not going to do that on video here with you because it's tedious, but basically you stamp and fussy cut. Now, this is one issue you have with post-it note tape as a FYI. It does smear. So it tends to get on your hands. It smears on the tape. So you just have to be a little bit careful and let things kind of dry. And you can see here I've got some smearing. I gravitate towards post-it note tape because it never fails me with my ink blending, but you can use there's lots of masking products on the market. Here I am going to remove all of these masks. This is always like Christmas to me when you remove a mask, because I just love that clean, solid line. And it just, I don't know, it just looks really cool. So this image actually could just be left like this. You could add a cool sentiment and it would still look really neat, but we're going to actually color the image. So I'm going to add fresh post-it note tape that doesn't have any of that smeared ink on it. And I'm going to then color with the mask in place. I did this so that I wouldn't struggle as much not going outside of the border. Ultimately, what ended up happening is there ended up being some ink bleeding underneath the tape, and we'll talk about that and how I fix it here in the video. Today we are making 2 cards, not just one. And for my coloring, I am using my darkest to lightest colors and then going back in with my lightest color to blend everything out. I have sped this part up. I don't color this fast. So this is 4 times its normal speed. And I'm laying down my darkest color at the base of every petal. And then I'm going in with my mid-tone and then my lightest. When you are coloring, you always want to think about where your shadows would be. This is not a skill I have perfected. I actually struggle quite a bit with coloring things in a light source correctly. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is because I think that a lot of people avoid doing alcohol marker coloring because they feel like they're not, quote, good enough to do it. The truth is, we all learned to color when we were about 4 or 5 years old. We sat and colored in coloring books. We colored at school, and we were taught to stay in the lines. But with that, I just say to you, anybody can color. And even if you were to use one color and not do any shading at all, your project is still going to be beautiful. Here you can see in my oranges that there's not much differentiation in the coloring. In my second card, I learned from this mistake and I went in with a much darker, you'll see here, I used a much darker base color, a YR09. And I realized that I needed more depth. Now in my second card, my orange flowers turn out looking much more dramatic because I learned from this one. So I share that with you because even though I'm here on Honeybee's channel and my own channel sharing how to do these things, I don't do them perfectly and I'm still learning. It is a journey for everybody. They say that it takes 10,000 hours of doing something before you are an expert at it. And I doubt I've colored for 10,000 hours with Copic markers. I'm probably getting into the thousands for sure. But it just takes practice and then it takes learning. So I will be attending the Honeybee retreat in the end of March, and I'm super excited about that. I don't know if any of you are going to be attending, but I would love to meet anybody who is going. Obviously, I'm excited to make new friends, and I'm excited to learn some coloring tips. I know that there will be some other awesome design team members in attendance. So what you saw there is I used my 100 black Copic marker and I went on the edges and I just drew a straight line with my T-square ruler. And I did that because there was some bleeding over on my edges and I didn't want that. So that gave me a crisp, clean look on the edges. And we're going to come back to that card. This is the second card that we are making. And for this card, I decided I wanted a bouquet coming out of the wood crate that is part of the stamp set. So I stamped the bouquet first, masked it, then I stamped the wood crate, and now I'm going to stamp the wood crate on a piece of masking paper. And then I'm going to cut out this piece and I will apply this over the top of the stamped crate. And then we're going to do more ink blending. So in this video, I'm really showcasing how you can create cool backgrounds using ink blending and then have a nice focal point. These cards are not complicated to make at all. They're very simple cards, but they're great for people who don't have a lot of supplies. So for example, here you can see I'm using one ink color. I am using simple Post-it note tape and I'm using one stamp set. And we're able to get two totally different looks out of our cards using these products. This is the Honeybee blending tool, by the way, which gives a beautiful soft blend. I really like their blending brushes. The big ones are very nice, especially because it gives you this nice, soft, even blend. So here I'm making a pattern. So in the last card, I just did one solid line, but in this card, I'm making a pattern. I'm going through and moving my pieces and I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not measuring or anything because at the end of the day, when we give our cards to somebody, they're not inspecting it like we do. They're not looking for every little error you've made. They're just looking at an overall finished product that is beautiful. So here I have finished off the pattern in the background and I just went for kind of a soft blue using that tumbled glass distress ink, and then I'm coloring. Now you see how much more dramatic my flowers look in this card. That's because I learned some lessons from the last card. I didn't show you the coloring for this one because I already showed it to you for the first card and I did all the same colors. The only difference is in those orange cards. I ended with a Y18 for my lightest and I started with a YR09 for my darkest. Here I'm coloring the crate, and same with this. I learned a little lesson that my dark color for the crate in the middle wasn't dark enough. So I actually ended up going back in with a E79 to darken up that little center line. You see me doing that here because I wanted there to be more of a dramatic difference there. One of the things I have learned is that using darker colors is a little bit scary because once you've used them, you're committed. So I tend to fall in the category of using a lighter color first and then going back in with darker colors if I feel like I need them. So there's some fantastic sentiments in this stamp set, and I couldn't decide on one, so I stamped all of them. And the great thing about doing this and die cutting all of these out is now I have them for future cards. I just put them in a little cello bag and tucked them in with the stamp set when I cleaned up and put everything away. And now if I make another card using this stamp set, I may already have my sentiment die cut and stamped and ready to go, which will save me a little bit of time. So here I just stamped them all with no, you could see there's no order to any of it. And I put them on my cutting mat. And then I went ahead and laid all of my die cuts on top and die cut all these pieces out. FYI, I do use the Anna Griffin Impress machine for my die cutting. It has been a game changer, and Honeybee does have them for sale. So, in fact, the last time I checked, they had a discount on the older one. There's a brand new version. I have the older version. I don't see any reason at this time to buy the new version since I have the old version. So my recommendation, if you're looking for an electronic die cutting machine, hands down the best machine I've ever used. And you can grab one at Honeybee. Here I'm layering some black cardstock onto a regular A2 size card base. It's cut at 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So it ends up being a 4 1/4 by 5.5 card. Then my black piece is cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then this piece here is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And I just think that black edging is absolutely stunning for that card. For this card, I decided not to do any matte and to just put dimensional tape or foam tape on the back and pop it up so that it was up off of the card base. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that down. And then I got to play with my sentiments. I got to choose what sentiment I wanted because I had stamped them all and die cut them all. If this is not something you've tried before, I really encourage you to try it when you're stamping because die cutting all of your sentiments really gives you an opportunity to try out a bunch of different sentiments on your card. So I went for a thank you card and like a friendship card because I felt like these were the two that I'd probably use most likely in my life. And so here I grabbed the Basics gems from Honeybee, and then I grabbed the Harvest Pearl stickers from Honeybee. So I'm sorry I didn't really have time for story time in this video. As you can tell, I'm sure I am recovering from a icky little virus that I had for about a week. It still isn't quite all the way done. Everybody I know is sick or has just been sick. So, excuse me, I finished these cards out and I love how they turned out. We will get to a story time in another video very, very soon. And I'll touch base with you guys more on more things that are going on. In the meantime, you can catch either one of the videos that you see here from me. Click the circle with my face in it to subscribe. Grab the products you see here below the video. There's a link, it says supply list and a link. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for a little bit, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.